After being abandoned by his guardians, a cat finds a magical mansion but has to face an evil realtor in order not to lose his new movie, The House of Magic 2023. In the beginning of the story, we are shown that a man deliberately leaves his cat on a road. This cat gets very worried that I don't know why his family did this. She was a cat living in the house. She didn't even know about the outside world. When she starts following her family's car, she is saved from an accident. And that's when she finds a walking dog. Seeing her condition, he tells her that when people get tired of pets or get bored, they leave us alone like this. On any road or in the park, listening to this, the cat was blown away. The next day happens, and this cat sees that a black cat was also left on this road like her. This cat wanted to go to her to talk while running, but that cat climbs on the wall of a house and goes inside the house. Now, when our cat goes inside the house while following the black cat, she finds a black dog instead of a black cat, which is now badly after her. Our cat is now just trying to save her life. She is running fast to save herself from this dog. In order to save her life, she goes inside the house in fear, in which this dog does not come. Now the cat thinks that this house is the best place to protect her. That's why when she tries to go inside the house, she sees that all the doors of this house are closed. There was no way to go inside. That's when she notices that 2 pigeons have gone inside the house through a hole made above. The cat also follows the same path and goes inside the house, but as soon as she goes inside the house, she is very scared. She was getting scared. One was so dark here, and on top of that, there were so many strange things here. When she goes ahead, she sees an orange from a tree and throws a strange thing from behind. In the same way, while being beaten by all the things, she falls on a poster, and on the other side of the poster, she finds a rat. This rat is scared of this cat and immediately runs away from here and goes to his rabbit friend. When he tells him about the cat coming to his house, this rabbit immediately goes to the cat and tries to scare him and get him out of here. Actually, this is the house of a magician, and all the things that the cat faced were also magical things. The magician loved to keep pets, and this was what Jack was afraid of, that if the magician saw this cat, then this cat would also start living with him. And in this way, the love of the rabbit and the rat would decrease. This cat had now gone out of here in fear. It was also night, and it was also raining heavily. Where does the poor cat go? She hides in a lighthouse and accidentally falls into the house when the lighthouse opens, where she sees that the magician is playing with her small creatures. These are the creatures of the type of robot. All of them could have spoken. While playing with them, the magician suddenly finds out that someone is going to come into his house. In the same way, he hides all his small creatures. Then the door opens and a boy comes inside. Actually, this magician is the uncle of this boy is very greedy. He always used to come and tell the magician that what will you do by living in such a big house? You sell this big house and go and live on a good island. But the magician wanted him to always live in this house. Now they were arguing about this that suddenly this boy starts getting allergic. Actually, this boy was allergic to the cat. And now because the cat was in the magician's house, this boy could not stay in the magician's house for a long time and leaves from here. After the magician leaves, he goes to sleep while talking to all his creatures. But because of the boys running away from here, the rabbit and the mouse find out that somewhere the cat is in the same house, because of which the boy was allergic. And now they were thinking of a new plan to get the cat out of here. Now in order to get rid of this cat, this rabbit and this mouse make a lot of noise. And with this noise, the magician's eyes open. Now, what was the fear of this rabbit? It happened. The magician had seen this cat, and he decided to keep this cat in his house. Now the magician introduces this cat to all the creatures living in his house. And in the joy of its arrival, now all the creatures have a great party here. At night, the cat goes to sleep with the magician when the rabbit and the mouse come to him again, who had come to scare this cat so that he could not stay here the next day. But this cat did not pay attention to what he said. He was in the same house the next day and was having a lot of fun with all the creatures in the kitchen. Now, as soon as the rabbit finds out that the cat is still in the same house, he immediately goes out to kill it. But then from behind, the magician grabs that rabbit by the ears and puts it in his magic box because he was going to take the rabbit to the magic show. Now the magician leaves with all his stuff on his small cycle for the magic show, which was in a hospital. He sees that the cat is also following him, so he takes the cat with him. For small sick children in the hospital, the magician was doing this magic show. The children are very happy to see this magic show. The show ends and the magician starts coming back to his house. The rabbit sitting inside the box sees that the cat is sitting on the box. He thinks this is a good chance to get rid of this cat. Get rid of it before you go home. He starts bothering the cat through the holes in the box. Before the cat jumps from that box, the balance of the magician's cycle is disturbed due to its movement, and it collides with a car. And in this way, the magician has a very bad accident. In all this, the cat had also fallen very far and was unconscious. After fainting, the cat wakes up to find the Chihuahua who helped him when he was abandoned. The dog believes he is evil, so no one wants him as a pet since he has just attacked an elderly man. In addition, Lawrence may have gone to hospital or home, making Thunder even sadder. So the Chihuahua decides to accompany him to the mansion after getting close to the house. The dog realizes that it is the haunted mansion in the neighborhood and begins to tremble at the same moment he warns his friend that he must return. Because the rabbit who lives there is known for his cruelty in the hospital, the magician sleeps with his leg in a cast in his trunk next to the bed. Inside, Jack discovers that he has broken his leg, and the other animals hear a noise, realizing that Daniel has arrived on the scene. He hands his uncle an advertisement for a shelter for the elderly, but due to the effects of his medication, he doesn't understand the subject. Nevertheless, his nephew says he'll be back later with some papers for him to sign. At the same time, the kitten enters the mansion and finds all the toys turned off. However, Thunder knocks over one of the toys, and the doll starts to move, so everyone goes towards the animal to try and catch it, but they just pet it. Meanwhile, Lawrence receives an unexpected visit. The sick children appear at his bedside and find the magic chest, freeing the pair of birds by lifting the lid. However, the youngsters are interrupted when a nurse enters the room and finds the animals. She then claims that the room cannot house any animals and demands that the children return to their room. The pair of pigeons return home and claim that their guardian is recovering, but Daniel is plotting against his uncle, faced with this situation. The cat asks Carlo and Carla to keep watch, calls Edson and Twig to follow him. At the hospital, the broker enters Lawrence's room, holding a sheet of paper, and asks him to sign it, but he refuses. Despite his refusal, the man holds his hand and makes him write against his will since he can't defend himself, due to the effects of his medication. Later, Daniel goes to the mansion with the magic chest, while he's trying to transport the heavy box. A couple comes by to see the house at the same moment. Thunder understands that the man intends to sell the house without his guardian knowing. This prompts him to come up with a plan to stop him. Just as the couple are about to enter the house, a pigeon appears and does his business on the pair, soiling all their clothes. The woman gets stressed and gives up on buying the house in the living room of the mansion. Jack and Maggie come out of the trunk, claiming that Lawrence is in hospital because of the feline, but he admits that the pigeons were there too and asks them to tell the truth. But neither of them is willing to talk, which makes all the friends in the group afraid of the cat. But Edson protects him. However, the kitten claims that he can save the house because Daniel is allergic to cats and that he won't be able to sell the house if he's inside. Even so, the animal is locked inside a birdcage by his companions. The next day, a woman comes to visit the house in order to buy the property, and she brings her pet, the Chihuahua, that is Thunder's friend, the doves, then prepare to launch dirt at the visitor. But Daniel had expected this and uses an umbrella to protect her, which makes her angry at the man's sudden approach upon entering the house. The realtor begins to have an allergic attack and leaves the woman inside alone. She decides to leave her dog free to explore, but he freaks out and tries to get out. The Chihuahua enters a room and finds his friend Thunder trapped in a cage. The feline has a plan to escape and needs his partner to bite his tail. Then the cage swings from side to side until it falls to the ground and opens, freeing the cat. At the same time, the dog's guardian climbs the stairs and twists her foot, causing a terrible fall. The two friends head for the exit of the house but run into the realtor, who tries to capture them using a bucket. However, Thunder manages to escape and heads for the street, leaving only the Chihuahua under the bucket. Even so, when the man lifts the object, he receives a bite from the animal, followed by a blow from his guardian. Afterwards, Jack and Maggie believe that the cat took advantage of the confusion to escape, which relieves them. Thunder arrives at the hospital and finds Lawrence with the children. He is afraid to approach his guardian, who admits that he has no remorse for the tragedy that happened. So the animal approaches him. Suddenly, the nurse enters the room, but the cat hides in time, escaping through the window without the woman noticing. At the same time, Maggie prepares to attack the next visitors. She does push-ups and heavy training. The prospective buyer arrives on the scene, and his wife arrives shortly afterwards, so Daniel offers to go and see her. While the guy is still inside the house, the mouse takes the opportunity to attack him, but the guy doesn't mind Thunder, then manages to enter the house and finds his friend trapped inside a vase. But before he can help her, he is surprised by the humans who return to the house. Daniel has another allergy attack, leaving the shoppers alone. Once again, the woman goes to the kitchen and finds one of Mr. Lawrence's trinkets. She tries to turn on the robot, but it won't move. However, the blender is suddenly activated, scaring the shopper who approaches the object, so the cat activates it, causing all the liquid inside to be thrown in the visitor's face, which makes the floor slippery, causing her to fall. In addition, the other animals throw cereal, and the cooking robot throws pancakes at her afterwards. Everyone throws her out of the room, causing her husband to be surprised by the scene. This makes the buyer furious, so she claims to Daniel that the house is haunted. Everyone thanks the cat for the group work, but Jack believes that the guy is fooling everyone, so he asks which leg his guardian hurt in order to judge whether he really went to the hospital, even though Thunder knows the answer. The rabbit believes he is lying, so he asks the other creatures to capture him, but they all decide to defend him. At the hospital, Mr. Lawrence finds the advertisement for the retirement home and confesses that it would be the last place he would seek shelter at the mansion. Two men enter the house in order to remove all the objects, while one of them is boxing up trinkets. A machine is activated, distracting him so he doesn't realize that one of the creatures is throwing a bolt at his head. He tries to leave the place, but the door is locked and the machine heads straight for him. The other person checks a noise and realizes that his things are no longer in the box. What's more, his partner comes across a dark room where the image of a ghost is projected, leaving him terrified soon after he is dragged around the room on a chair that he is tied to and forced to look at various bizarre things, such as a giant eye and hands that move on their own. Then Thunder appears wearing a strange mask, and a giant dragon charges at the men, carrying them across the room until they are pushed outside the house. The men run out of the house at full speed, and Daniel arrives on the scene to witness a shower of fireworks generated after Maggie and Jack hit the cat with the explosive, which causes it to fall in front of the man. The stockbroker chases the animal and begins to have another allergic crisis at the hospital. Lawrence learns that after being discharged, he will have to go to a shelter that his nephew has arranged, but he wants to go to his own home in the mansion. Thunder attacks Daniel, but his blow has no effect because the man is protected by a special suit. The man then fires his gun at the cat but misses when a couple of birds get in his way. The feline takes the opportunity to flee the scene but continues to be shot at until he manages to get upstairs. He tries to hide behind the old furniture, but the broker keeps finding him and firing his gun. However, the animal's friends quickly approach to help and ended up being locked in one of the rooms. Thunder then walks under the floor while the evil man tries to hit him. Fortunately, the cat is hit by a very heavy box after returning to the lower floor. Daniel ends up falling as he removes part of his protective clothing. He encounters his uncle's magical beings at that moment. Edson snatches the man's gun and drags him after the creature until he is interrupted by a blow from the robot. Cook Daniel defends himself with a sword, but the robot manages to get hold of it, and the others take action by knocking him to the floor, so they manage to throw the realtor out of the house at the hospital. Mr. Lawrence calls his nephew to ask about his admission to the shelter, but the man doesn't want to confess anything. So the magician tries to leave the room and is stopped by the nurse in the house. The creatures mourn Thunder's perishment and are surprised when something shakes outside the house. Then they come across Daniel driving a demolition machine. He tries to move the steel ball attached to the vehicle, but it won't budge. Meanwhile, his uncle is on his way to the scene in an ambulance driven by the children. However, the broker figures out how to move the ball and narrowly misses, destroying his own car. Inside the man, Jack decides to go outside, but ends up getting stuck in the animal passageway. At that moment, Maggie asks her friends to help get the rabbit out of the hole in the door, but a wall is suddenly broken, causing the box that hit Thunder to be thrown away, showing that the cat is still alive and saving the mouse from being hit by a piece of wood. When they realize that the feline is fine, all the other creatures that were turned off decide to wake up shortly afterwards. Lawrence arrives on the scene and finds his nephew destroying the house. The madman shows him the signed contract for the sale of the residence, but the birds manage to steal the paper from the guy, making him go crazy, and direct the steel ball at the mansion after a hole is cut in the gutter of the house. The creatures make a bridge to cross over to the other side, and Edson ends up falling in, so the boy from the hospital manages to catch him before he hits the ground. Daniel attacks once again with the steel ball, and narrowly misses Thunder, who manages to jump on top of the destructive object, even though the man tries to bring him down at all costs. Maggie asks for help from one of the creatures, who throws her towards the ball, but the mouse ends up falling. Then Carlos manages to catch it in midair, but ends up bumping into the machine, which causes the mouse to fall into the gears. She goes through tight and dangerous places, burning her paws as she dodges obstacles. Then the rodent finds the control cabin, so Daniel manages to capture her. However, the cat appears on the scene and brushes up against the man's face, causing him to have a severe allergic attack, so he loses control of the steel ball and the object falls on top of his car. Afterwards, the mouse apologizes to Thunder for treating him badly and thanks him for saving her life. After a few days, they put on a show in the backyard of the magical mansion, and Lawrence performs various tricks using his magic top hat, in which Maggie, Jack, and the feline work together. On the other hand, Daniel wants to do business with a lady, but the woman takes care of several cats, and this spoils his plans due to allergic attacks.